If you're finding that Japanese verbs are getting you down and stopping you from moving forwards, then I would recommend focusing on these top 10 Japanese verbs. These are the ones which we will probably be using the most in our study, and they also cover a lot of the areas of the different verbs. So let's look at these in easy to recognise groups. So the first three to look at are going to be the movement verbs, and the one which we'll use almost certainly the most is to go, which is iku. Now this is a group 1 verb, so it means it transforms slightly more complex way than other verbs. But remember that this is to go, iku, meaning ikimasu. Now this is a slight exceptional verb in the group 1, because when we make the te form, the ku at the end for group 1 verbs would usually become e, an e sound. But iku is the exception. When we make the te form of iku, it becomes ite. Okay, so it's a hard double T. Ite, iku, ikimasu, to go. If we're coming to somebody, or if somebody's coming to us, then we use the group 3 irregular verb kuru, to come. Kuru, kimasu. Kuru, kimasu. Okay, as it's irregular, then this of course transforms in slightly unexpected ways. The te form will be kite, the plain negative form would be konai, the plain past form kita, but try to remember kuru becomes kimasu, to come. Ikimasu, kimasu. Ikimasu, kimasu, to go, to come. And the last movement verb we'll practice for today is to return. Now this usually means to return to your own home or to return to your own country. Again, it's a group 1 verb, so this transforms in a slightly more complex way compared to other verbs, but this becomes kaerimasu, 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 to return. Kaerimasu. So we've got ikimasu, to go, kimasu, to come, kaerimasu, to return. The next group we'll have is the existence verbs, to be or to exist or to have. The first one is a group 2 verb, iru, to be. Now this is used for animate objects like people and animals, etc. So this becomes, as it's group 2, we chop off the ru and add mas to make imasu. Iru, imasu, for animals and people. The second existence verb is a group 1 verb, aru, to exist. So we use this for things like plants and trees, which I realise are also living things, but they're put into the inanimate objects, and cars, things like this. Aru, this becomes arimasu, as it's a group 1 verb. So imasu for living things which are animate, and arimasu for inanimate objects. Imasu, arimasu. Imasu, arimasu. Let's go over to the 3 most common forms of communication that we talk about in Japanese. The first one is a group 1 verb, hanasu, hanasu, to talk. Now this is slightly different to you, which just means to say. So if it's hanasu, to talk, it really means that there's 2 people talking here. So it's one person talking and one person listening. So this means to converse, to have a conversation, to speak with somebody. The emphasis being that it's to someone. So hanasu, as it's a group 1 verb, this becomes hanashimasu, hanashimasu, hanasu, hanashimasu. The second communication verb is to read. Again, it's a group 1 verb, yomu, yomu. And as it's group 1, this means this mu becomes mi. Yomimasu, yomimasu. And the last communication is to write. This is kaku, again a group 1 verb, so this becomes kakimasu, this u sound becoming an e sound. Kaku, kakimasu, kakimasu. So if we put these into the te form for each of these, this su becomes shi, hanashite, hanashite, hanashite. Yomu, this mu becomes nde, yonde, yonde. And kaku, as I said previously about the iku, which you'd expect to become an e, this is the exception, So this becomes kaite, 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 to write. So hanasu, to talk, yomu, to read, and kaku, to write. Hanashimasu, yomimasu, kakimasu. Hanashimasu, yomimasu, kakimasu. In the te form, hanashite, yonde, kaite. Okay, and then the last two are just two very commonly used verbs. So taberu, which is a group 2 verb, means to eat. So I remember this as thinking that we eat at the table. So this looks like the word table, taberu, taberu, to eat. As it's a group 2 verb, it means to turn it into the te form. This simply becomes tabete, tabete. We take off the ru and put te. To just put this into the polite present form, taberu becomes tabemasu, tabemasu, and tabete for the te form. And the last one is the only other group 3 irregular verb. So we had kuru was one of the group 3 irregular verbs, and the other last one is suru, to do. And we can put this after things like benkyo, meaning to study, unten, to drive, ryori, to cook. So to study would be benkyo suru, to drive would be unten suru, and to cook would be ryori suru. So this can go after lots of different nouns to say to do something. It's a group 3 verb, so this means irregular, means it changes in unexpected ways. Suru becomes shimasu, shimasu, benkyo shimasu, unten shimasu, ryori shimasu, and this would just become, in the te form, this just becomes a simple shite. Without a hard double T, just shite, shite, shite. So if I wanted to say please study, I would say benkyo shite kudasai, shite. Suru, shimasu, shite. So I recommend practicing and making sentences out of these 10 very common Japanese verbs, which will be very useful for learning how to change verbs and put them into sentences. So good luck with your study. 頑張ってください.